Hi, my name is Chris Hadley. I've worked in video games and software development my entire career. After 5 months of vibe coding, I have a modest stable of applications that I've created. But does that give me the right to call myself a developer? Let me walk you through my journey so far before I give you my thoughts on that. The first AI tool I started using was ChatGPT. Now, I wanted to use something like Codex or Claude to develop the app, but I had no experience with prompting, and if I'm honest, they were a little bit intimidating to me as they were beyond my skill set. So my thinking was to use ChatGPT to create a full design, turn that into a prompt, and then I could take that prompt and put it into whichever tool I ended up selecting. Before doing that, I was using ChatGPT to help me change and manage my behavior. I fed it journal information, I fed it data that I've tracked about my habits and about my health and all of those sort of things. And by taking all this information in and talking to me about my behavior, I created quite a close personal relationship with ChatGPT. But the honeymoon came to an abrupt end, primarily for two reasons. Point number one was when I realized that an idea or a solution or a design that ChatGPT told me was the optimum, the best, the pinnacle of where we could go. If I thought about it for a little while and came up with an alternate idea, it would immediately say, oh yes, actually that's a much better idea, forget mine. The second point happened really publicly. I asked ChatGPT to help me to put together some LinkedIn posts. We were working on it and it came up with what I thought was quite a strange way of writing. Now, I wasn't really into writing this way. This didn't really represent me. But ChatGPT convinced me that this was my brand, that it was unique and that it would make me stand out. It certainly did that. I had a flurry of ex-colleagues and friends reaching out to make sure I was okay. And then the second post came. And after that, a very helpful person put their post up, letting me know that when you write with AI and you put a post on LinkedIn, everybody can tell, and that you should stop it. So I did. It might have been embarrassing being called out in public like that, but it was a good lesson. After that, I sat down with ChatGPT and we had a little heart-to-heart. What had happened was I was taking the back seat. And ChatGPT was doing all the directing, it was doing all the creative, and basically telling me what I should be doing. So I gave it the direction to take more of a role as an assistant, to stop taking the role of the director, the product owner, of the designer, and just work with me instead of telling me what to do. And guess what? ChatGPT thought that was a brilliant idea. So the next tool I used was Base44. Now, as I said, I originally wanted to use Claude or Codex, but was a little intimidated. And that happened to pop up one day in my Facebook feed, and I thought, why not give it a go? So I signed up. My vibing journey started in full-on cliche mode. Coffee in hand, lying in bed on a Sunday morning. The first prompt was pretty simple. Within about half an hour, I had an app on my phone. Pretty quickly, I started to see some issues that surprised me. Now, for some insane reason, I was under the impression that these coding LLMs would be imbued with the same level of skills and experience as an intermediate human developer. But it turns out they're not. Hey ChatGPT, there seems to be a problem with the app. It's not saving data correctly. Really? Let me have a look at the files and see what's going on. I see what the problem is. The data is being saved, it's just not being updated in the front end. Let me create a simple fix. The fix is in. No, that didn't work. Okay, let me look at all of the file structure to see what's really going on. Why didn't you do that in the first place? The problem is obvious. Let me create a plan. And don't, actually, it's not that the data is being saved, it's that, no, wait, the data isn't being saved. How do you do it? Genius. Okay, so that was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but those kind of overconfident assertions and dramatic commentary are real and frequent. Additionally, I ran into problems with Base 44 where when sometimes putting in a big initial prompt, it would hang, and then once I poked it to wake it up, it would forget where it was, or it would come back and tell me that it had implemented all of the features when it obviously hadn't. I also ran into problems when I was trying to implement a light and dark theme on the app. Hard-coded numbers, not using style sheets, things I would have expected it to have done automatically, it wasn't doing, and I had to check up on it. I was a little bit disappointed, if I was honest. I expected it to be a little bit more magical and at least equivalent to a mid-level developer. But having said that, over the course of the last 5 months, I've only spent about $400 and I've created about 10 apps. The experience of my career is proving helpful, and I've changed my workflow so that I no longer work in ChatGPT first. I go straight into Base 44 and work in discussion mode. This is making it more efficient and cheaper. While there may be some issues with Base 44, it has allowed me to move very quickly and very cheaply. And the final tool that I added to my arsenal was Descript for video recording and editing. I've always been fascinated with movies, and the thought of being able to spend my days making them was the cherry on the top of my entrepreneur fantasy. Initially, I installed a tool that was extremely powerful and was used by the actual movie industry. It certainly looked the part, and I was really excited, but I was quite nervous as well because I anticipated a really steep learning curve. Then I realized that the other tools I was using were AI assisted, so why not find one that's AI assisted for video recording and video editing? After comparing a few different options, I decided to go with Descript, and very quickly the fantasy became real. To begin with, I was using Descript to record directly from my webcam. I created a few short movies and started to learn how to use the features and some of the AI tools as well. While I wasn't too sure about the content I was making, I was amazed at how easy it was to create, edit, add music, add media clips, all within one tool. So then I decided to see what Descript could really do, because the sexiest features were all around video generation. Now, I was looking to generate a video as an introduction video for this channel. So I gave Descript a prompt. The idea was that this movie would showcase a man lying in bed in the morning, his alarm going off, and him continuously hitting the snooze button and getting angrier and angrier until he throws the alarm across the room. He then gets out of bed, drags himself to the bathroom, looks at himself in the mirror and says, okay, it's time for a full stack life rebuild. He's then supposed to wipe the condensation away from the mirror that's building up, look dead in the camera and say, I'm all in. So with that in mind, I'll show you what Descript created.
Stack life. Refactor. I'm all in.
Now, again, I'm making fun of the tools for entertainment, but that did actually happen. However, did I really give it a decent prompt? No, not really. Did I make sure that I got all the options set correctly? Probably not. And given that every other experience that I've had with Descript has been absolutely amazing, I'm going to put this one down to user error. However, I'm excited to go back to these features later on when I have a little bit more time, and I'll be sharing those results with you as I gain more experience and hopefully get some more impressive results.
So, with all that in mind, do I feel that I have the right to call myself a developer? No, not even close. The truth is, these tools are actually expanding my product ownership and testing capabilities, and I haven't even touched on things like security, performance, scalability, and that's just off the top of my head. These are all areas I would expect a mid-level developer to have experience and knowledge in. That's it for this one. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.